The grand banquet hall of the celestial realm glittered with an otherworldly radiance, its opulence a testament to the power and prestige of those gathered within. I stood near the entrance, my eyes flickering like embers as I surveyed the scene before me. The air was thick with the scent of ambrosia and the sound of ethereal music, yet beneath the surface of this lavish affair, a current of tension simmered. Expedio, the Almighty, stood in the middle of the many tables, his presence commanding and austere. His gaze swept across the room, lingering for a moment, as if he cared about me all of a sudden. But I felt the weight of that look, a mixture of expectation and disappointment that had grown all too familiar over the ions. I moved through the crowd. He could feel the eyes of the other gods upon him. The Supreme Elder, a being of immense wisdom and power, watched him with a calculating gaze. I hate the Supreme Elder Matronyx. Her ability to summon them at will is something I always held resentment for. The banquet was a spectacle of divine proportions. Plates of golden fruit and goblets of starlight wine adorned the tables. Performers danced through the air, their bodies shimmering with celestial energy. But none of it seemed like it was for me out of love. Yet for all its beauty, there was an undercurrent of deceit that I just could not ignore. I overheard whispers as I passed by a group of minor gods. The firebearer once said, voice dripping with disdain, "More spark than flame, if you ask me." Laughter followed, quickly stifled when I turned my burning gaze upon them. My hand instinctively moved to my eagle goldmare and my torch, the instrument that had made me a master path. I remembered the long nights spent honing my skills, with goldmare learning to navigate the darkest corners of the universe. The fire within me burned hotter with each slight, each dismissive glance. As the evening wore on, plays were performed, depicting the great deeds of the elders and gods. I walked through a mask of indifference, as my own accomplishments were glossed over or attributed to others. I saw Expedio nod approvingly at tales of Matronix's exploits, while my own creation of fire ascendo martial arts went unmentioned. The elegant dining began, and I found himself seated far from my father, surrounded by gods who regarded me with a mixture of curiosity and wariness. I ate little, the food tasting like ash in his mouth. My thoughts drifted to the Sunon University, where I had first learned to harness these powers. How different things might have been if Expedio had shown me the same guidance and care he seemed to lavish upon me. As the night progressed, I felt increasingly isolated. I watched as my father engaged in animated conversation with the Supreme Elder, their heads bent close in discussion. Matronix flitted from group to group, her charm and power drawing others to her like moths to a flame. I just sat there and traced the intricate patterns on my goblet, remembering the stolen citrine stones and cinder from Sunon's palace that had been used in his creation. I was a child of fire and deception, and sometimes I wondered if that was why I struggled to find my place among the other gods. A commotion near the center of the hall drew my attention. A group of gods had gathered to watch a demonstration of power. Matronix stood in the middle, as she summoned lesser deities to her side. The crowd murmured in appreciation. I felt a familiar pang of jealousy. I had to turn away and not look at them. I then rose from my seat, the chair scraping loudly against the floor. Heads turned, and for a moment, the hall fell silent. I strode forward, his body radiating heat. With a flick of my wrist, I conjured a ball of fire that danced and swirled above my palm. The flames took shape, forming intricate patterns and scenes from the cosmos. The other gods watched, transfixed, as I demonstrated the full extent of my mastery over fire. I moved through the forms of fire ascendo, each stance flowing seamlessly into the next. The air crackled with energy, and for a brief moment, I felt the weight of their respect. As my display came to an end, I looked to his father, seeking a glimmer of pride or approval. Father's face remained impassive, but there was a flicker of something in his eyes. Recognition, perhaps, or the faintest hint of regret. The banquet resumed its previous rhythm, but something had shifted. I could feel it in the way the other gods regarded me now, with a newfound wariness and respect. As I made my way back to my seat, I caught snippets of conversation. "Perhaps we underestimated the fire god," one elder murmured. "Indeed," another replied. "There's more to Centronio than meets the eye." The night wore on, filled with more music and merriment, but I still remained apart. My thoughts turned inward. I knew that my display would not erase years of neglect or heal the rift between my father and I, but it was a spark that could, with time and patience, grow into something more, something I lacked as a boy. As the banquet drew to a close, I stood at the edge of the hall, my torch burning brightly at my side. I watched as the other gods departed, some casting curious glances his way, others still showing off. In the flickering light, I saw the path ahead, long and challenging, but no longer shrouded in darkness. With a deep breath, I stepped forward, ready to move forward with unveiling of the eternal flame suit.